2 hours before I was supposed to propose at her favorite restaurant, I got a call from my brother saying, "Don't do it. She's here with me right now." I thought he was joking. Then he sent me a picture. I walked into that restaurant anyway, but not with a ring. I'm a 29M, and until about 6 months ago, I thought I had my entire future lined up perfectly. You know when you start to believe life's finally smoothing out, like the chaos you've been through finally makes sense because everything's falling into place? That was me. I had the job I'd worked my ass off for, a small but cozy apartment in Chicago, and a girlfriend, Erin, 27F, who made the bad days bearable. We'd been together almost 4 years. I was going to propose. I'd spent months saving up for the ring. It wasn't massive or flashy, but it was elegant, exactly her taste. White gold, small emerald center stone because she once told me emeralds reminded her of summer nights at her grandparents' cabin. I listened. I always did. The proposal was set for her favorite restaurant, Leone's, a little Italian place tucked between an old bookstore and a florist. It was where we had our first date. She loved the pasta carbonara, and I swear she'd light up every time she walked in there. I'd even coordinated with the manager to bring out champagne after I proposed. Everything was set. Then, 2 hours before it all went down, my phone rang. It was my brother, Caleb, 31M. Now, Caleb and I aren't super close. He's my older brother, but we've always been kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. He's a bit of a wanderer, jumps between jobs, travels a lot, lives by the go-with-the-flow mentality. I'm the structured one, the planner, the boring brother, as he used to call me when we were kids. But still, family's family. So when he called, I thought maybe he was just checking in, maybe finally remembering to wish me good luck for tonight since I'd told him about the proposal weeks ago. But his voice was weird, tight, hesitant. "Hey man," he started, and immediately I knew something was off. "Listen, don't go to Leone's tonight." I laughed, confused. "What? Why not?" There was a pause. I heard some background noise, like clinking glasses and chatter. He was somewhere crowded. "Because she's here," he said slowly. "Who?" I asked, still clueless. "Erin," he said. "She's here. With me." At first, I thought he meant he ran into her. Maybe she was grabbing lunch or something. "Wait, what do you mean with you?" "Like, sitting at the same table." He sighed. "No, like with me. We've been seeing each other for a few months." I remember going completely still, like my body just stopped functioning for a second. My brain refused to compute what I'd just heard. "You're joking," I said quietly, already feeling something sharp coil in my chest. "I wish I was," he said. "But I didn't want you walking into that restaurant tonight thinking she's yours. I couldn't let you." "Shut up," I snapped. "You're lying." "I'm not," he said, his voice breaking a little. "I didn't mean for it to happen, man. I swear I didn't." I hung up. I didn't even think. I just hung up because my body couldn't process the noise of his voice anymore. But then, 30 seconds later, my phone buzzed. A text. From him. It was a picture. Of Erin. Sitting across from him at a table. The same restaurant I was supposed to propose in later that night. Her hair was pulled back in a loose bun. The one she did when she wanted to look effortlessly casual. She was laughing, mid-sip of wine. His hand was resting on the table near hers. I remember staring at that picture for what felt like an eternity. My ears were ringing. My heart felt like it was being crushed in a fist. I didn't even realize I was shaking until the phone nearly slipped out of my hand. I wish I could say I called her right then, or that I screamed, or broke something, but I didn't. I just sat there on the couch, in my stupid blazer, with the ring box sitting on the coffee table in front of me. And after a few minutes, I stood up, took a long breath, grabbed my keys, and I drove. Not away, not to blow off steam. I drove straight to Leone's. I don't even remember the drive. I must have been on autopilot, because suddenly I was pulling up to the curb, parking in the exact spot I'd imagined walking her back to after proposing. The restaurant looked exactly the same. Warm lights, soft jazz spilling out from the door, a few couples sitting by the window. I could see her through the glass before I even walked in. Erin, my girlfriend, my almost fiancée, sitting across from my brother, laughing like she didn't just destroy something sacred. I walked in. The hostess looked up, smiling, about to greet me, but I didn't stop. I just kept walking, straight past her, straight to their table. And when they saw me, the way their faces changed, it's something I'll never forget. Caleb's expression went from relaxed to panic in a heartbeat. Erin froze, wine glass half raised, lips parted mid-laugh. I stopped right at their table. Wow, I said, my voice weirdly calm. Guess the surprise is on me, huh? Neither of them spoke. The entire restaurant went quiet. I could feel eyes on us, but I didn't care. I pulled the ring box out of my pocket and placed it on the table between them. You can keep it, I said. You'll probably need it before I ever do. Then I turned and walked out. I didn't cry. Not then. Not that night. The tears came later. Way later, when the silence of my apartment finally sank in, and the realization that I'd lost two people in one night hit me like a freight train. And that was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on the couch, staring at the ring box I'd stupidly brought back with me. It felt wrong to throw it away, but it felt worse to keep it. Like this tiny, beautiful thing had become radioactive, something that used to mean hope, but now just burned to touch. At some point around 3 a.m., my phone lit up. Erin. Her name glowed on the screen for a full minute before I silenced it. Then she texted, "Please, can we talk?" I didn't respond. She texted again, "It's not what you think." That one actually made me laugh. Not a normal laugh, though. The kind that comes out hollow and ugly because you've got too much pain sitting in your chest. I turned my phone off and sat there until morning. By sunrise, my brain finally started catching up with the chaos. I called in sick to work. I couldn't face people pretending I was okay, and just walked. No destination, just miles of streets, random blocks, until I ended up near the lake. The water was calm. My head wasn't. I kept replaying everything. Every night we spent watching dumb sitcoms. Every inside joke. Every time she'd said, "You're my favorite person." And somewhere in there, my brother's voice cut through. We didn't mean for it to happen, man. I hated how calm he'd sounded. How gentle. Like he was breaking bad news about someone else's life. Around 10 a.m., my mom called. Which was weird, because she never calls that early. "Hey honey, are you okay?" she asked immediately, voice laced with concern. "Caleb came by last night. He looked awful." My jaw tightened. "He told you." "He told me something," she said carefully. "That there'd been a misunderstanding. That you and Erin had a fight. He seemed really upset." I laughed again. "A misunderstanding? That's what we're calling sleeping with my girlfriend now." She went quiet. I could hear her exhale shakily. Oh my God. "Yeah," I said, voice cracking a little. "Guess he left that part out." She started saying something about coming over, but I hung up. I couldn't handle the pity, not even from my mom. I spent the rest of the day trying to convince myself this was some nightmare that would fade. It didn't. The texts kept coming. "Erin," over and over. "Please answer. Please. Let me explain." By the time evening hit, my anger had started to overtake the shock. I didn't want explanations. I wanted the truth, something real, not filtered through their pathetic excuses. So I did something stupid. I drove to her apartment. Her car was there. The same little blue Civic she'd refused to trade in because it had character. I sat in my car for a full 5 minutes, debating if this was even worth it. Then I got out. She opened the door almost instantly, like she'd been standing there waiting. "Daniel," she said softly. Her eyes were red, her face pale. "Thank God. Please, just let me talk." I didn't step inside. "Talk then." "It wasn't supposed to happen," she said, wringing her hands. "It just did. One night, we were hanging out, drinking, and it got out of control. But it only happened a few times, and I stopped it. A few times." I cut her off, my voice sharper than I intended. "How long?" She hesitated. "Maybe 2 months." I actually laughed out loud. 2 months. 8 weeks. All those weekends, she said she was working late or going to see her friend in Milwaukee. "Why him?" I asked. "You could have cheated with anyone, but you chose my brother. Was that part of the thrill?" She shook her head frantically. "No, God, no. It wasn't like that. We started talking after your mom's birthday dinner, and we just connected. I didn't plan for it. I never wanted to hurt you." I stared at her, feeling something inside me die with every word. "You connected with him," I repeated, voice low. "That's your excuse." She was crying now. "I love you, Daniel. I do. I made a mistake. A huge one. But what we had, it's real." I wanted to scream at her, to say every cruel thing that popped into my head. But all that came out was, "If it was real, you wouldn't have done it." She reached for me, and I stepped back. "Don't," I said quietly. "Just don't." Then, from behind her, I heard movement. A voice. Familiar. Dan. Caleb, standing there in a t-shirt, looking like hell. His hair was messy, eyes bloodshot. He had the nerve to look ashamed. I froze. My fists clenched without me realizing. You've got to be kidding me, I muttered. He took a hesitant step forward. I came to talk too. I'm sorry, man. I I screwed up worse than I ever have. You think? I shot back. You couldn't find anyone else in the entire damn city? He swallowed hard. I didn't plan it. She was there for me when I was going through stuff. And, oh, don't even start with that. I snapped. You were going through stuff? That's your justification for sleeping with your brother's girlfriend? He looked down. Aaron was sobbing quietly now. I suddenly realized how pathetic the whole scene was. The two of them, standing there, crying like they were the ones wronged. And me, just a prop in the disaster they created. I turned around and started walking away. Aaron called my name, but I didn't stop. That night, I blocked them both. Phone, socials, everything. I didn't trust myself not to say something I'd regret, or maybe something I wouldn't regret but couldn't take back. The next few days were a blur. My mom tried to get me to sit down and talk as a family. I refused. I wasn't ready to see either of them in the same room again. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But word spreads fast in families. Suddenly, I was the guy everyone whispered about. My aunt called. My cousin texted me some half-assed sorry bro. Even Caleb's friends reached out to say they were disappointed in him. Didn't change a damn thing. I kept my head down. Worked. Ate almost nothing. Slept when I could. But underneath all that numbness, something else was building. Not just anger. Not heartbreak. Something colder. More precise. I didn't want revenge, at least not the petty kind. I wanted them to understand exactly what they'd destroyed. And I had the perfect way to make that happen. It started small. Not even as some grand plan at first. Just a need to take back control. Because after that night, everything felt like it had been ripped out of my hands. My relationship, my trust, my family. I was the collateral damage in someone else's selfish story. A few days after I blocked them, I got a message from Caleb's ex, Maya. She and Caleb had dated for about a year, and she and Aaron had met a few times at gatherings. I didn't know her super well, but she'd always been cool. No drama, just straightforward. Her text said, I heard what happened. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. I replied, thanks. Didn't realize people still had decency left in this world. She sent back, if it helps, you're not the first person they've done this to. I froze. I called her immediately. What do you mean by that? I asked. Apparently, back when Caleb and Maya were still together, Aaron had been a little too friendly with him at some housewarming thing. Maya said she caught them flirting and that Caleb brushed it off. Said it was harmless. I didn't think they'd actually go there, she told me. But looking back, yeah, I should have trusted my gut. Hearing that made something click inside me. This wasn't some one-time mistake or random emotional lapse. This was a pattern. My brother had always treated boundaries like suggestions. And Aaron? She clearly wasn't new to crossing them either. I started thinking differently after that. Less like a heartbroken idiot and more like someone who needed closure on his own terms. So when I heard through a mutual friend that Aaron and Caleb were laying low, but still together, I realized they hadn't even broken things off. They were actually dating. It should have crushed me. Weirdly, it didn't. It just lit something sharper in me. Because here's the thing. They might have thought they could erase me, rewrite the story like I was just some ex she outgrew. But I wasn't about to let that narrative stand. Not after everything. A few weeks later, my mom insisted on hosting a family dinner. Said she wanted to clear the air. I didn't want to go, but she begged, said it was time to heal. So I agreed, on one condition, Aaron wasn't there. She said fine. But when I walked into her house that Saturday evening, I saw both of them sitting there at the dining table. My brother looked like he'd aged 5 years. Aaron was in one of those modest floral dresses she wore when she wanted to look put together. My mom was pacing, clearly nervous. Daniel, she started, I know you said you didn't want. No, I interrupted. You don't get to ambush me like this. Please, she said softly. Just hear them out. I looked at both of them. You've got 5 minutes. Caleb started talking first. Said all the same crap I'd already heard. That he was in a bad place. That they didn't mean to hurt me. That they fell for each other accidentally. I swear, I almost laughed. Then Aaron spoke. Her voice was quiet but steady. I know there's nothing I can say to make this right. But I want you to know I never lied about loving you. I held up a hand. Just don't finish that sentence. She looked like she might cry again. I leaned forward. You didn't just cheat on me. You humiliated me. You made me believe in something real. and then you destroyed it in the most disgusting way possible. And you? I turned to Caleb. You were supposed to be my brother. You took everything I trusted and pissed on it. Caleb's voice cracked. I know. I'll never forgive myself. Good, I said flatly. Because I sure as hell won't. Then I stood up to leave. But right before I walked out, something in me shifted. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was clarity. You know, I said, turning back toward them. It's kind of poetic. You two deserve each other. You're both impulsive, selfish, and convinced that your feelings justify your betrayal. That kind of thing doesn't last. You'll see. Then I left. That night, I made a decision. I didn't want to scream or break things anymore. I wanted to rebuild. Quietly. But I also wanted them to know, when the time came, that they hadn't just walked away unscathed. I threw myself into work. I was an architectural designer at a mid-sized firm, and I started picking up every extra project I could. The distraction helped. I was staying late, sketching until midnight, taking on clients my boss didn't even want. And funny thing, the harder I worked, the better things got. A few months later, I got promoted. Lead designer. More money, more independence, more respect. I moved to a better apartment, started hitting the gym again. I wasn't healing, exactly, but I was starting to recognize myself again. Then one afternoon, maybe 6 months later, my boss told me about a new expansion project our firm was bidding on, a high-end residential complex in the suburbs. I'd be leading the pitch. I was proud as hell, until I saw the client list. And right there, under investment partners, was Caleb Myers. I almost laughed. My brother, the guy who couldn't hold a job for more than 6 months, now part of an investment group. I dug deeper. Turns out Aaron's uncle ran a small real estate outfit, and Caleb was working under him. Suddenly, it clicked. The universe had just dropped them right back in my orbit. My boss said the client meeting would happen in 2 weeks. Aaron and Caleb would be there. I didn't even hesitate. Yeah, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'll handle it. I prepped like it was my life's final exam. Every design element, every number, every presentation slide was flawless. I made sure there'd be no cracks for them to hide behind. And when that meeting day finally came, I showed up in a suit sharper than my anger, calm as a surgeon. They didn't expect to see me. The look on their faces when I walked into that conference room. God, I'll never forget it. The meeting was in one of those glass-walled conference rooms downtown, the kind that's supposed to look transparent, but really just traps everyone inside their own awkward reflections. I walked in with my laptop and portfolio case, acting like I didn't even notice them. But I did. Every detail. Erin was sitting 2 chairs away from Caleb, wearing a beige blazer and pretending to scroll through her phone. Her hair was shorter now, like she'd chopped it off to signal a fresh start. Caleb looked uncomfortable in a suit, like he'd borrowed it for the occasion. When he saw me, the color drained from his face. Daniel, the project coordinator said, smiling. Glad you could make it. Of course, I said smoothly, taking my seat across from them. Excited to present. I didn't let my eyes linger, but I could feel both of them staring at me, probably trying to figure out if I'd cause a scene. They didn't know me anymore. That version of me, the guy who begged for explanations and lost sleep replaying their betrayal, was gone. The presentation started. I went through the design concept slide by slide. Clean, modern, sustainable. Every word was crisp. Every visual was flawless. And every single time I said something like, "We believe integrity and trust are the foundation of every great structure," I made damn sure to look directly at Caleb. He shifted in his seat, pretending to take notes. Aaron avoided my gaze entirely. When I finished, the room applauded lightly. The lead investor nodded approvingly. Impressive work, Daniel. This is the kind of attention to detail we're looking for. Thank you, I said. I take pride in making sure everything holds up. No cracks beneath the surface. Caleb's jaw tensed. Aaron's hands twisted under the table. The meeting wrapped up, and everyone started packing up their things. The lead investor said they'd be in touch soon with a final decision. People shook hands, smiled, pretended everything was normal. Then Caleb stood. Dan, can we? No. I cut him off without even looking at him. We're not doing that here. He froze mid-step. Aaron said quietly, "We didn't know you'd be." Yeah, well, I said, finally turning to her. Life's full of surprises. And with that, I walked out. Calm. Controlled. The opposite of how I'd left that restaurant months ago. But I wasn't done. The next week, we got word the project was ours. My design had sealed the deal. I played it cool at work, but when I got home, I poured myself a drink and just stared out the window, letting it sink in. I wasn't just back on my feet, I was miles ahead. A few days later, Caleb called. New number. I shouldn't have answered, but curiosity won. He sounded tired. I just wanted to say congratulations, he said. You earned it. You always do. Save it, I said flatly. He sighed. Look, I know I don't have the right to ask for anything, but I'd like a chance to make peace. Peace. I repeated. You think I'm interested in peace? You burned that bridge the moment you decided your feelings mattered more than my life. He didn't argue. You're right, he said quietly. I just thought maybe we could start over. Someday. You should have thought of that before you got on your knees for my girlfriend, I said, then hung up. I expected to feel better after that, but I didn't. It's weird, revenge, or whatever you call this. It doesn't heal you. It just makes the ache quieter. Still, part of me knew it wasn't over. Not yet. A couple months into the project, I got an email from the investment group. They wanted to adjust the payment structure because one of their partners was no longer involved. I clicked the attached list, and there it was. Caleb's name, crossed out. A quick LinkedIn search confirmed it. He'd been fired from the real estate firm. I didn't even have to dig to know why. Word gets around. Apparently, he'd been caught using company funds for personal expenses. A nice way of saying he couldn't stop living beyond his means. And Erin? Her name popped up in the firm's old event photos, then disappeared completely. No social media updates. No new job. Nothing. Just gone. Maybe they broke up. Maybe she realized the version of Caleb she fell for was the same one who'd do to her what he did to me. I didn't need to know. The silence was satisfying enough. Still, my mom called one night, because of course she did. Your brother's having a rough time, she said carefully. He could use your support. I almost laughed. He used my trust, my support, my girlfriend. I think he's had enough of me. Daniel, she said softly, holding on to anger won't fix anything. Neither does pretending forgiveness is some moral high ground. I said. He made his bed. Let him sleep in it. That was the last time I talked to her for a while. Because even though I'd moved on, there was this lingering guilt. Like maybe I'd gone too far, or not far enough. But mostly, I just wanted peace. I started dating again. Slowly, cautiously. There was this woman, Lila, who worked in marketing for one of our clients. We met during a project review, and she was the first person in months who made me laugh without effort. No drama, no games. Just calm. One night, after dinner, she asked, "Do you believe people can change?" I thought about it for a long time. I think they can, I said. But not everyone wants to. She smiled faintly. That's fair. That night, lying next to her, I realized I didn't hate Erin anymore. Or Caleb. I didn't forgive them, but the hate wasn't keeping me alive anymore. It was just dead weight. So I let it go? Quietly. A few weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was the same picture Caleb had sent me the night everything fell apart. The one of him and Erin at Leonie's. Only this time, someone had written on the back, in messy handwriting, "I'm sorry." No name. No explanation. I stared at it for a long time. Then I tore it in half and threw it away. Because for the first time in almost a year, I didn't need to keep the evidence. I didn't need the story. I just needed to live. Still, there was one last thing I wanted to do before closing that chapter for good. And that's how I ended up standing outside Leonie's again, exactly 1 year after the night I was supposed to propose. It was almost poetic, standing there again. Same soft yellow glow from the windows. Same faint smell of garlic and wine floating out into the street. But this time, I wasn't holding a ring in my pocket. I wasn't trembling or hopeful or heartbroken. I was just me. A year older. A hell of a lot wiser. Leonie's was busy, same as always. Couples talking too loudly, laughter spilling through the glass. I stood outside for a while before going in, watching the door swing open and close, feeling this strange calm settle over me. I wasn't there for closure. Not exactly. I just wanted to rewrite the memory. The hostess recognized me almost instantly. "Oh, Daniel. Long time," she said warmly. "Table for one." "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Just me tonight." She led me to a small corner table by the window, the same one I'd picked for the proposal. The one I never got to use. For a second, I almost couldn't sit down. The ghost of that night was everywhere. The champagne that never came out. The speech I'd rehearsed 100 times. The look I thought I'd see on her face when she said yes. But then I took a deep breath and sat anyway. Ordered a whiskey instead of wine. I don't know how long I sat there. Probably an hour, maybe more. Watching strangers pass by outside, letting the noise of the restaurant drown out the old memories. And then something unexpected happened. The waiter, a guy maybe in his 20s, came over and said, "Excuse me, are you Daniel Myers?" "Yeah," I said, confused. He handed me a folded piece of paper. "Someone left this at the front desk for you about half an hour ago." My stomach tightened. I unfolded it slowly. There were only 3 words written in clean, delicate handwriting I recognized instantly. "I'm truly sorry." No signature. I looked around, scanning faces, but no one familiar was there. Just strangers, eating, laughing, living. For a long time, I just stared at that note. Part of me wanted to be angry, like how dare she show up here again, even symbolically, but another part of me didn't feel anything. Not anymore. Because it hit me right then, I didn't need her apology. I didn't even want it. Maybe it was genuine. Maybe it was guilt. But it didn't matter. She could carry her regret, her shame, whatever weight she needed to, but it wasn't mine to hold anymore. I finished my drink, paid, and walked out into the cool night air. The city hummed like it always did. Car horns, laughter, music spilling out from a bar down the street. Life went on, the way it always does. And for the first time in a long time, I felt okay being part of it again. A few months later, I got an email from an unfamiliar address. It was from Caleb. The subject line just said, "No excuses, just words." Normally, I'd delete something like that instantly. But curiosity got the better of me. His message was long. Too long. He told me he'd moved out of the city, was working construction in Oregon, trying to start from zero. He said Erin had left him about 6 months after everything happened, that she'd found out he'd been messaging someone else. I actually laughed at that part. Not because it was funny, just because of how painfully predictable it was. He ended the email with, "You don't have to forgive me, but I hope one day you stop carrying what I did to you. I still think about it every day." I stared at the words for a while, then closed the laptop. Didn't reply. There wasn't hate in me anymore, just distance. Like he was some stranger I used to know. And maybe that's what healing really looks like. Not some big emotional breakthrough. Not forgiveness or revenge or dramatic closure. Just distance. Enough of it that when you look back, it doesn't sting anymore. A year and a half later, I was sitting on my balcony, coffee in one hand, blueprints spread out on the table. Lila came out, barefoot, hair messy, still half asleep. She sat beside me, head on my shoulder. She pointed at the sketches and said, "That's the lake house design, right?" "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Client wants something open, simple, honest." "Honest," she repeated softly. "I like that." I looked at her then, really looked at her. The sunlight was cutting across her face, and I thought about how different she was from Erin. Not just in looks, but in presence. There was no chaos, no guessing games. She didn't make me feel like I had to prove anything. She just stayed. And that quiet, steady love, it healed things I didn't even realize were still broken. A few weeks later, I was at my mom's place for dinner. It had been a long time. We'd kept things distant for a while after the fallout, but slowly, we were finding our rhythm again. She brought out a box from the closet midway through dinner. "I found something of yours," she said. Inside was the ring. I froze for a second. I thought I'd left it behind somewhere, but she must have found it when I moved out. "I kept it," she said softly. "Didn't know if you'd want it back." I picked it up. The emerald still caught the light, just right. I held it between my fingers for a long time, then smiled a little. "It's beautiful," I said, "but it's not mine anymore." She looked confused. "What will you do with it?" "I don't know yet," I said. "Maybe keep it. Not as a reminder of what happened, just of who I used to be. Because that version of me, the guy who believed love was simple, who trusted too easily, who thought heartbreak was something you could plan around, he deserved to be remembered too." After dinner, I drove home, rolled down the windows, let the wind hit my face. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel weighed down by the past. Sometimes, you don't get the apology you deserve. Sometimes, you get one too late. But either way, life keeps moving. And maybe that's the real revenge, not anger, not payback, not some cinematic justice. Just living better than they ever expected you to. Because when I walked into Leonie's that night a year ago, I thought my life had ended. Turns out, it had only just begun. If you made it all the way to the end, thanks for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the story, consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. It helps me share more stories like this. Thanks.